I used to think the most dangerous kind of man was the one who shouted, but it turns out the kind who lowers his voice and says it's fine is far scarier, because you never hear the plane snapping into place until it closes like a door behind you. When I met Ethan, I mistook calm for passivity. He was a software architect who cooked on Sundays, labeled spices and handwriting neat enough to be a font, and believed most problems could be fixed with lists and time. I was the opposite. PR director with a calendar that looked like the inside of a pinball machine, allergic to silence, built for momentum. I loved how steady he was, how he looked at a grocery list the way he looked at me, as something that mattered and would be handled. We married in a renovated library downtown, ate miniature fish tacos like we were the first couple to invent appetizers, and promised to beat each other's home base. For a while we were that. Then the year I turned 32, I started to itch. Not for someone else. At least not at first. But for more. More trouble, more parties, more evidence I was the kind of woman whose life needed documenting. My promotion came with a per diem and a new circle of people who measured status in photo angles and rooftop access, and I leaned into it like a runner leaning into wind. Ethan didn't object. He made sure I had chargers in every suitcase, texted have fun with the green heart I told him was my favorite, and wiped the kitchen counters before picking me up from the airport because it relaxes me to come home to clean lines. The first time I did something I'm ashamed to write out loud, it barely registered as a wrong turn. I RSVP'd to a colleague's birthday at a bar that specialized in drinks with flowers frozen in ice. Ethan asked if I wanted him to come. I said it would bore him. He said, "It's fine." At the bar, my coworker Jason, new to the team, charismatic in that lazy way, stood too close when he told a joke. I laughed and didn't step back. A photographer hired for the party snapped a picture of me with petals on my tongue and a man's hand around my waist. I posted it with a caption about working hard and playing harder, and left my ring out of frame because it clashed with the color scheme. When I got home, Ethan was asleep on the couch with the book open on his chest and our cat curled like a comma between his ankles. I whispered sorry to nobody and nothing, took off my makeup, and slid into bed rehearsing explanations I never used. The next morning at breakfast, he scrolled through his phone and showed me the photo. "Great shot," he said. "Tone so even it didn't wobble the air." "Thanks," I said. "Too bright, testing for traps." He looked at me and then at the window and then back at his eggs. "Try not to leave your ring on the sink," he said. "You'll lose it." I said, "Right," he said. "It's fine," and kissed my head on his way to the door. "I would like to tell you that woke me up. I would like to tell you it made me recalibrate." Instead, I took its fine as proof that there was no price, just a series of little pills you swallow so nothing hurts. I started collecting its fines like beads. The work trip I extended for an extra night because a client invited us to the soft opening of a club. I wanted to be seen at. "It's fine," he texted, even though I'd promised to be home to help him batch cook Sunday sauce. The dinner with my ex-boyfriend's sister because we're friends and we always got along, and I had posted a boomerang of 2 wine glasses clinking in amber light. "Fine," Ethan wrote when I told him I'd be late. The hotel breakfast that turned into brunch that turned into a rooftop with Jason and a handful of people whose last names I didn't know. I borrowed someone's jacket for a photo because it draped right, and Ethan commented a green heart under it anyway. The first real line I crossed was sex, and I crossed it on a night that started with a work win and ended with a door I should have never walked through. We'd landed a huge brand, champagne in the office, someone ordered sushi at 9. Jason put his hand on my lower back when I laughed too hard and I let him leave it there, let the room tilt so the part of me that knows better felt very far away. At midnight he offered to call me to a car. I said I needed air, and the air outside smelled like hot pavement and something sweet. And then we were in a cab anyway, and then we were at his building where the elevator was mirrored so I could see myself not stopping. And I hate that this is true. It felt like winning something I didn't even want to play for until it was in my hand. When I woke up at 5, I wanted to unzip my skin and run out of it. I took a shower in water, too hot to feel, wiped my face with one of those hotel-grade towels he kept for guests, and walked home because taxis felt like confession boxes. Ethan was in the kitchen making coffee. He looked at me like he'd been practicing not to. I opened my mouth and nothing came out but leftover air. He handed me a mug with both hands like a ceremony. "Long night?" he asked. I nodded, grateful for the performative normalcy. He put sugar in his own cup and said, "We should get the gutters cleared before fall." I nodded again. I'll call someone, he said. He sipped, then added, without looking at me, let me know if you want me to grab your ring from the bathroom counter next time you get ready here. I don't want it to go down the drain. It took me a second to understand he'd seen it. Then the floor tilted. Ethan. It's fine, he said softly. We'll figure it out. We did not talk about it that day or the next. He did not punish me in any of the cinematic ways a person could, which somehow felt worse. He was gentle, which made my chest tight because gentleness is a mirror. He made dinner. He sent me a link to a pair of boots I'd said I liked, and pretended it was because he'd found a coupon. He folded laundry while he watched soccer highlights and asked me twice if I wanted the gray hoodie. He hates to go to Goodwill, and didn't roll his eyes when I said no. When you do something terrible and the other person refuses to be a villain, it stretches the hurt until it thins and then snaps in a way that slaps your face. I sent Jason a message that said this was a mistake, and he wrote back law relax, which should tell you everything you need to know about the kind of man I burned my life on. I ghosted him, and in my head I put a brick on that door. Ethan put his bricks elsewhere. He asked me, 2 weeks later, if I wouldn't mind signing a small update to our postman. Something our lawyer had suggested years ago, when we merged finances, since I had variable bonuses, and he had stock vesting. It's just clarifying separate property, he said in that soft way that makes bureaucratic language sound like a blanket. It's fine if you want if someone read it. But I had Mark draft it the way we discussed. What way? I asked, guiltily, aware I remembered none of the specifics from 3 years ago. Just clean lines, he said. What's ours and what's not. How to handle a buyout if one of us wants the house. How to split retirement accounts if we ever need to. I'd rather have it and never need it than scramble. It sounded like the kind of adult move I was always posting about being the kind of person who makes. I skimmed, saw words like clarify, codify, confirm, and signed while my pasta water boiled. Ethan kissed my cheek and said thank you, like I'd done him a favor. The next breadcrumb he set with a smile. We should do a money day, he said. Sunday morning pancakes on plates, cat on chair like the third participant. Just sit with our accounts and make sure we know where everything is. It should have been normal. It was normal. We updated beneficiaries. We listed subscriptions that needed canceling. He suggested we split our credit cards. Each keep one in our own name, lower the limit on the joint, clear the balances, and pay cash when we could. It's cleaner, he said, less to untangle if you know life happens. Are you planning our divorce? I joked. He smiled and flipped a pancake. Planning is what keeps the house standing when the rain comes, he said, which is an Ethan sentence if there ever was one. I let him do it. I let him tighten the ship because it felt like someone needed to, and I was tired of being the one who remembered the pet sitter and the birthdays and the extra hand soap. I told myself marriages don't fail because one person reduces a credit limit. They failed because of other things, like the thing I had done and was not talking about. August bled into October. I calibrated myself back to us like a radio finding a station in fuzz. I stopped staying late for vibes and started remembering that I loved the way Ethan makes soup, the way he listens to entire albums in order, the way he grins sideways when he knows the cat is about to knock something off his shelf. It could have been a second beginning if a first ending hadn't already been in motion. Right before Thanksgiving, we went to his parents for dinner. His mother hissed me with garlic and relief because she never liked my job, and my Instagram makes her nervous. She pressed leftovers into our hands like a ceremony. On the way home, the car felt like a warm pocket. Are you happy? Ethan asked at the stoplight, voice small like the question scared him. I think so, I said, and meant it as much as a person can mean something while standing on sand. Are you? He thought a second longer than I liked. I'm trying, he said. We'll be okay, I said, reaching for his hand. He squeezed and said it again for both of us. It's fine. December is when I should have known for sure, because he started organizing things that nobody organizes unless they're building a narrative. He scanned the pet adoption paperwork from when we got the cat, highlighting his name under primary owner. He updated the home inventory spreadsheet and took photos of our furniture as if he were about to file an insurance claim, then backed the pictures up to a folder titled Home 2021-2024. He set up a password manager and made me learn my own vault by heart. So you're not reliant on me, he said, which is the kind of kindness that glows until you remember the flip side of not being reliant is being left. I asked him if everything was okay. He kissed me, in the middle of the living room like a light going out gently. It's fine. In January, my mother got sick and I lost my footing. She needed appointments scheduled and rides to labs and someone to sit in an office listening to a man say invasive while he frowned at a screen. Ethan came to and stepped back in a way I told myself was him letting me handle it, which was fair. He's my mother. I let my inertia take me back to work, because work is where I feel valuable when life makes me feel small. I posted less, then more, then less again. Valentine's Day came and he cooked steak and played a record that makes me cry for reasons I couldn't explain to a stranger. He gave me a card with a cartoon son wearing sunglasses and wrote "I love you" in all caps. I gave him a book about architecture, and he laughed until he opened it and saw I'd written in the margins of a chapter about foundations. "We are fixing ours." He kissed me long and hard, and for a while I believed myself. In March I got a D, and with a photo attached. Me at a conference in Dallas, Jason leaning in, my mouth open mid-laugh. "Miss you, babe," he'd written, because some men confuse attention with ownership. I deleted it. Then I blocked him. And I took a shower and scrubbed my skin until the hot water stopped being hot. When I came out, Ethan was on the couch organizing tax documents. He didn't look up when he said, "Do you want to scan your 1099s now or later?" "No," I said, grateful for the narrowness of tasks. He handed me the scanner and a manila folder labeled Sasha. Income. Misk, and I had to step into the hallway and breathe, because seeing my name on something so square made my brain tilt. April was quiet in the way a storm is quiet when it is arranging itself on a radar. We did the yard. We watched the neighbors' tulips emerge like a magic trick. We said save when we saw something we might want to do later and put it on a list. We laughed at a TikTok about a couple who make short charts and call it foreplay. We had foreplay that was not a chart, and it felt like love anyway. And then in May, he made his move. It was a Wednesday, and I remember the way the kitchen looked at 7:12 a.m. Some on the counter like melted gold, Cat asking for breakfast with his PowerPoint eyes, Ethan in the blue t-shirt he should always wear because it makes his eyes look like a promise. He set a cup of coffee in front of me and a folder on the table. "I want to talk," he said, and the way he said it made my teeth buzz. "Okay," I said, stomach dropping the way it used to when teachers put a test on your desk you didn't study for. He sat. "I filed for divorce yesterday," he said very gently, the way you would tell a child that the thing she loved broke in a way that cannot be fixed. My mouth went hot. "What?" He pushed the folder toward me. It was stacked with things I recognized and things I didn't. Our post-nup with the addendum I'd signed, highlighted from my convenience. The home inventory with items checked off under E. Sofa, bookshelves, tools, the espresso machine he told me he hated and secretly loved. A copy of the adoption form for the cat. Printouts of bank statements with balances circled and notes in his neat handwriting. Joint Lord John, separate paid. There were 3 pages of photos. My Instagram with ringless hands and men's hands too close. A printout of the D. Emma deleted from Jason that he had recovered somehow. A screenshot of hotel Wi-Fi logins from the time I said I was at a work dinner and stay at a bar until 2. It wasn't salacious. It was tidy. It was a story told without adjectives. "Ethan," I said, and heard the plea in my voice before the name was finished. He put his hand over mine, and I flinched even though I did not want to. "I'm not doing this to punish you," he said. "I'm doing it because I tried to fix something that didn't want me to fix it, and I don't want to break myself doing that." I shook my head so hard the room wobbled. "We've been good," I said. "Lately we've been good. We've been careful," he said. "There's a difference." I tried to hand him reasons like shields. "My mother is sick. Work is chaos. Jason is not the cause," he said softly. "He was a symptom. I've forgiven you in all the ways I know how." He swallowed. "I forgave you so thoroughly that I taught myself to forget. And that is not what forgiveness is supposed to feel like. We can go to counseling," I said, offering the word like a key. "I already did," he said. "I'd been going since August. It took me a second to do the math. August. When I thought we were beginning again. I felt something angry and childish flare in my chest. "You planned this," I said, accusing as a spit. "I prepared for it," he said steady. "For both of us." He slid another paper across the table, a proposed settlement that made my eyes sting, because it was both generous and terrifying. He wasn't asking for alimony. He wasn't asking for anything that wasn't already in the post-nup I'd signed stirring sauce. He would keep his separate savings, his pre-marriage retirement accounts, half the house equity for the formula, the cat because primary caregiver had always been true even if I wanted to argue form over function. I would keep my separate savings, my 401k, my car. We would sell the house and split the proceeds for the clause we both initialed. He would move out next week. He already found an apartment with light at 7 in the morning. He had lined up a Saturday to take the furniture that was his on the inventory. He had a list of utilities to transfer and a schedule for the realtor to come take photos. He had arranged the destruction so it would cause the least mess. "We can fight," he said, voice still kind, "or we can let this hurt in a way that heals. I would love to tell you I stood up and gave a speech about love and failure and how we would try again with humility. What I did was ugly. Cried into my coffee, snotty and unphoto. Then, while the cat had bit at my leg like he thought he could herd me back into the right pen. "Is there someone else?" I asked, because hurt people love a cliché. "No," he said. "There's me." He signed the last page of his copy of the plan with that neat signature that makes forms look like art, then looked at me like he was memorizing. "I loved you," he said. "I still do, a little, in the way you love a house after a flood. You remember where the light used to hit." He stood. "I'm sorry it took me this long to be brave." He moved through the week like a man doing chores. He packed without drama. He labeled boxes. He left a note taped inside the cabinet where we keep the olive oil that we simmer. "Don't boil because I always turn the heat too high." He took the espresso machine, and the way he cleaned it before putting it in a box made me cry harder than the lawyer's email. The day he moved out, he put the cat in a carrier that the adoption paperwork makes perfectly clear is his, and I will die mad about that even though I'm not the one who scooped the box at 6 a.m. For 5 years. He set his keys on the counter, kissed my temple like a benediction, and left. I signed the settlement because it was fair, because a judge would have made it ugly, or if I didn't, because dragging him through mud would only make us both dirty and I am tired. People asked me later if I tried to get him back. I didn't. I wrote him a letter I didn't send because there is a dignity in not begging someone who has already done the math and laminated the answer. I moved through the house like a tourist in my own life, learning how to do alone again. I started counseling. I stopped posting for a while because every caption sounded like a lie. I told my mother and she squeezed my hand and said she had always liked him, which is a sentence that hurts both ways. I went to work and I was bad-headed for a bit because grief turned my brain into oatmeal. Jason texted you up exactly once. I changed my number because sometimes the smallest liver is the one that keeps the machine from starting. The house sold. I got a 1-bedroom that gets morning sun if you leave the blinds cracked. I bought an espresso machine even though it felt petty because pettiness is sometimes the only spice you can find. I see Ethan sometimes at the farmer's market. He is 6 aisles over looked at by a woman who laughs with her whole face. I don't think she's someone else from before. I think she's someone since. He looks rested in a way that makes me proud and sick at the same time. When we pass each other, he says, "Hey," like we sat next to each other in 7th grade math. I say, "How are you?" and we both lie politely. When people ask me what happened, I could say, I cheated, and he filed, and that would be the crude drawing of a complicated map. The full version is this. I stepped over lines and told myself a story about boundaries being for people who don't know their worth. He watched and said it's fine until it wasn't, and while I was busy believing his softness meant safety, he was building a plan that would keep him whole when the wave hit. He made lists. He went to therapy. He got us both free of debt. He carved the shapes of his life and set them on shelves so, when he lifted them, nothing fell. He did not smash my car or my heart on Instagram. He turned off the lights when he left. He made sure the sink was empty. He took the cat. He let me keep my dignity where I still had it. Losing everything is not the same as losing them fairly. I lost fairly, and that might be the worst part. If you want the lesson, here's the smallest one and the largest. The small. Do not sign legal documents while stirring sauce. Take them to someone whose job is reading the words that hide the future. The large. When someone says it's fine too many times, listen for the silence inside it. Some people use it's fine like a bandage. Some people use it like a blueprint. Ethan's "it's fine" was the sound of a careful man making sure the house would not fall on him when I finished shaking the walls. I wish I had been the kind of person who needed neither flowers and ice nor a patient man to clean up after my storms. I'm not. What I am now is someone who can sit in a quiet apartment without refreshing anything. Someone who can leave her rent on the sink and not have anyone to remind her it might go down the drain, and still not lose it because she finally learned how to hold on to something. I do not have a cat. I have a plant that is somehow still alive because I water it on Sundays the way Ethan watered his lists. I have a countertop that sees the sun at 7. I have a folder labeled Sasha. Life. 2026, where I'm building a different kind of plan, not for leaving, for staying. With myself. And sometimes when my phone lights up at night for no good reason, I hear his voice in my head, gentle as ever, saying it's fine, and for the first time since the door closed, it actually is.